Warning! The following episode of Blatant Filler contains some coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised. Additionally, we will be covering heavy amounts of spoilers for the following series, so you may want to have watched the following series before listening to this podcast episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Blatant Filler. I'm one of your hosts, JJ, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts, Adam.
Hello.
And Sadi.
Hi, guys.
Today we will be looking at the major movie production that put Mamoru Hosoda on many people's minds, Summer Wars. So first up, what's Summer Wars about? Why don't you tell us, Adam, what is Summer Wars and who made it and all the related stuff regarding it?
Summer Wars is it's a action comedy sci-fi movie directed by Mamoru Hosoda. The studio that animated it was Madhouse, and it was licensed for a North American release by Funimation. It's not based on anything. It's an original work that they just made for a movie. I believe there was a manga adaptation later on, but the movie is the first instance of Summer Wars. It came out on August 1st, 2009 in Japan, sometime later in North America. It has a soundtrack composed by Akihiko Matsumoto, and it's about, I'm trying to find a good way to summarize. It's about a boy who visits his friend and sort of crushes family house in the summer. Digital hijinks happen.
Yeah, basically, digital hijinks happened. The movie really deals heavily with basically the main female character's family and sort of their relationship with each other and the matriarch of their family, the grandmother, whose name is, I believe, Sake Jinochi.
Sounds about right to me.
That's about as close as we're gonna get.
Pretty much. We're terrible at pronunciations. But it deals both with that and the aspects of sort of this very this basically social media virtual reality that's been sort of centralized into many aspects of the world, basically. So different stuff are linked together with it. Like if you're fire chief, you probably deal a lot of your stuff related to your fire department on there. So if your account were to get hacked, a lot of issues would come about that.
It's sort of like a universal operating system that they interface with through VR headsets and such.
Only they interface through it with their phones.
Yeah, it's their phones, and
that was sort of my issue with it. Is it kind of felt like they were just randomly pressing buttons on like, you know, when you see anything related to a hacker, he's just pounding away on the keyboard, and you know he's not really doing anything.
Yeah, they had like virtual avatars, if I remember correctly, right? I didn't get a chance to rewatch the movie. So they all had virtual avatars, and like a decent chunk of the movie took place in this virtual space that is basically the internet, but they chose to represent it as like a virtual world.
Yeah.
I believe it was called Oz.
Yes, it's called Oz. But it's set up where I will say visually it looks impressive inside there, but the way it feels with regards to the story, it never quite sat right with me how they handled basically the interface with Oz, and it just didn't feel like it worked well.
It's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Did it really have to? It was just very on the nose social commentary about how we're all going to move to our devices.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
their entire life revolves around their cell phones and their laptops, and that's actually kind of close to how we function now. You
Yeah.
know, it's not quite to the extent that it is in the movie, where like I said, or like you said, um, the right account gets hacked and a lot of stuff can get messed up. We don't
Honestly, though,
quite.
in today's day and age, we're not quite far away from that. I mean, how many things do you sign into or register for using your Google account or Facebook
Yeah.
or one of those other forms of social media? If they get
Yeah,
into one of them, they'll get into all your shit, pretty much.
yeah. If you're not secure about your passwords, this is why you're supposed to use a different password for every account.
I mean, nobody
Um,
does, so.
I
that's the
mean, I
problem.
do, which is why I'm always locked out of everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
It
reverse of
was.
an issue.
I liked the way that things looked in Oz.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was very visually interesting.
yeah, no question. Visually, Oz was very pretty and well designed. I felt.
I mean, it didn't entirely make sense how they were interacting with it.
And
Like
it
you said, they're
even,
just sort of
yeah,
pushing buttons and then things happen, and it doesn't really feel like there's any connection between what they're doing on their phones and what you're seeing happen in Oz.
it definitely felt like it was more being left up to the imagination than what was actually being shown. Because the visuals, when you actually see the computer, almost look nothing like what actually happens in the game or in the virtual reality itself.
Yeah, it's very much a representation as opposed to something that I think is supposed to be taken literally as like this is what's happening. It's a way to keep things interesting in the movie because nobody wants to look at a screen of moving text.
Yeah.
Tell that to all the people who watch 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, I'm not one. Why would they do that?
Why would you watch
Oh,
50 Shades of Grey in the first place?
the same reason why people watch Twilight.
Okay, you have a point there.
Why would they
Or
do that?
Sword Art, or why would they watch Sword Art Online?
Okay, well,
Oh, right.
we're
That
gonna
too.
we're gonna save Sword Art Online for later because you don't want to hear me rant about that.
Or Dead
Um,
Machi.
whew.
Okay, SK just wants to rant about that in an entire episode, so we'll save that for a future one. But back to Summer Wars, we're already getting off track.
My bad.
But
I do quite appreciate how everybody's avatar kind of sort of reflected like their job or their interest in life. That was really cute. I rather like that.
yeah, or their personality themselves as well.
Yeah, it was. I liked the way that things looked a lot. It held my attention. It looked really cool, and I mean, it didn't necessarily have to make perfect sense. Um, I think it was more supposed to be an attention grabber than anything else, and to give you something to imagine as a way to like see what was going on in virtual space.
It did kind of feel awkward when you know that the visuals are only there to pump up the action, but when the characters themselves are very clearly not seeing any of those visuals but still reacting in the same way, it always feels awkward to me.
Well, yeah, that is sort of like a similar issue that like the Matrix had.
Yeah,
Like they're looking at this green code and they're reading it, but it's sort of like a similar boat to this. You know what I mean?
yeah, but that's only part of the aspects of the movie. The more central aspects are definitely the Genochi family.
Yeah, Jinochi.
Genochi, yeah, okay, I'm pronouncing that right. But the more central elements of it definitely focus more on the relationship between the Genochi family, the matriarch of the grandmother, and her birthday coming up, and then later on her actual death before the movie actually, like halfway through the movie. But just the relationship of this family and how they sort of come together or sort of either conflict or help each other out in certain aspects or certain events.
I think Mamoru Hosoda films are usually he knows how to do action. He does it a bunch in this movie, but that's never really the main focus. I feel like all of the movies that he's done that I've seen have been very character driven.
Hmm. It's all
Yeah,
about the interpersonal relationships between the characters, which I love.
Yeah, I like stories like that a lot, and that's why I've enjoyed all of his movies so far.
yeah. I still need to watch The Boy and the Beast, but all three of the ones I've watched so far have been really great.
Yeah,
The
I
Girl
am.
Who Leapt Through Time will always be my favorite.
That's
I
also that's
I
my
still
personal
prefer
favorite.
I still prefer Wolf Children myself.
I feel like the majority of people do, but The Girl Who Loved Through Time is a special place in my heart.
Yeah, but back onto Summer Wars, we're getting off track again.
It happens.
It's your fault, JJ. I'm sorry.
No, we are called Blatant Filler, so this was bound to
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I think we should really try to dive into the main characters then.
Yeah, so first up is the main character himself, Kenji Koiso, who
Yeah.
is apparently a very smart math nerd.
Nerd.
Uh, so the so the main thing with him is Natsuki basically asks him, well, without him knowing at first, basically asks him to pretend to be her boyfriend in order to basically make her grandmother happy or something of that sort. So he ends up in a very strange situation right there. But then he ends up getting a text message from a what he learns later is an artificial intelligence called the Love Machine that basically is
Not
a
sketchy at
bunch of
all.
numbers. Well, I mean, it was from anonymous before, so who could tell who it
Mm.
was? I never would have suspected this random text message was from an artificial intelligence bent on basically destroying a centralized intelligence or centralized social media system.
Complete
But
world domination.
for $1 million. Yeah, Love Machine's basically Doctor Evil. But anyways, but he receives a text message full of numbers, and he basically figures out the code because that's what you do when you're a math nerd. You figure out codes and hack into stuff. Apparently, not like us computer science nerds who do absolutely nothing on the computer. But yeah, so he's very awkward of a character, but in a well-designed way, I feel.
Yeah, he's got an awkward personality, but that's it's it's a well written enough awkward personality that I think people with similar personalities will relate to him as opposed to being like off put.
Okay, this is gonna sound really bad, but like when I was watching it with my husband, it really did remind me of him quite a lot. Because the
Well,
Gengar is an Asperger's kid, and they hyper focus on one thing and they're really good at it. This is exactly why Kenji really did remind me of him.
hmm.
Kenji could have been an Asperger's kid, quite honestly. I would not have been surprised.
Well, I mean, we don't have that part of his backstory, but probably.
Who knows?
He was
Um,
amazingly socially inept. He really did not realize that Natsuki was beginning to like him until she kind of sort of like pointed it out to him.
uh, how did that happen again?
Oh, she planted one on him.
That was at the very
No,
end, but
no,
yeah.
no. I just meant like I don't remember their relationship before the movie.
It's never really stated in the movie itself, or at least not explicitly, but
Uh,
according to the wiki, it was like they used to be friends of sorts.
mm-hmm.
Okay, because I just like my earliest memory was just like him getting ready to go meet her, so I just assumed like, oh, well, they know each other,
Yeah.
but it's
At,
never
at mid,
explained in what capacity.
yeah. They were probably friends when they were kids or they were familiar with each other from school
I
because she
I
knew
think
him.
it's mostly the school thing because if I doubt they were childhood friends or anything like that.
Not in the anime sense, at least.
No.
Yeah.
Destined for each other from birth. loving each other from afar.
No. It's
Now kiss.
I thought it was like a pretty cute romance.
Oh, it was. It was adorable.
Yeah.
I'm the only girl here. Let me gush, okay? It
Yeah,
was
gosh,
cute.
do it.
Do it.
Um,
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Oh, my favorite part was like it was really sad, but like right after the grandmother died, when she asked him to stay with her, and they, held hands via pinky, it was perfect. It
Yeah,
mm,
warmed
that
my
was a
frigid
pretty
little
good
heart.
scene.
I mean, Hosoda's really good at moments like that.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
I think each movie has one of those interactions between two characters where you're just like, ah, you know, it just makes you
You
feel
cry
things.
ugly, girly tears, and you never admit it ever.
Ugly cry.
uh, but yeah. Let's see. Anything else to say about Kenji?
Well, no.
I will comment on the avatar they gave him after
The
the
squirrel.
avatar that was stolen. It is so plain and boring and just like not hideous compared to the rest, but kind of sorta. Says a lot about his self-esteem and how he sees himself. Like you could have literally created anything, and you made a giant glasses nerd.
Uh,
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's sort of hmm. I'm trying to think about like the process behind that and how it like would relate to his character because it's not like he's very I don't get the sense that he's very creative. He's a math nerd, you know?
which
This is
I
true.
mean, math nerds could be creative. It's just the general
Sure, but I
archetype
mean,
is yeah.
if we're just gonna use stereotypes here, people who are super good at math don't usually care as much for the creative side of things like that. He wants to make an avatar that represents him, and if he feels on the inside like a glasses nerd, then that's what he's gonna do.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's
So I
just
think it makes sense for his character.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then let's move on to Natsuki, who kind of likes her uncle a bit too much.
Okay, now just hold on with that. Don't judge her too harshly. Because at some point when you were a kid, you had a crush on one of your relatives. You just had to. It's a part of growing up, quite honestly.
Well, I live in Kansas, so most of the people around me are relatives.
Okay, that's fair. I'm gonna give you that. It's, I mean, like, Freud was full of it, quite honestly. We're just gonna ignore his psychology there. But at some point when growing up, the people that you're closest to, the people that you grow up
Yeah.
around, you do kind of sort of end up having a crush on them. 90% of the time, it might be someone you're related to before, because you're young, you don't know any better. You just like this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't it's not even necessarily like a romantic thing. It's just, it's like, oh, this person is special.
hmm And you, like, go above and beyond to impress them. And if you do something bad and they're disappointed, you feel that.
I mean, if anything, um she probably just looked up to him a
hmm
lot. He seems like somebody that she had a lot of respect for. And like I mean, like, yeah, of course there was a lot of respect for like the grandmother and the parents, but he seems sort of closer to her age, so
And
maybe a little bit more relatable.
I think he's
yeah,
like 30 or something.
Yeah,
he
but I
is.
mean, like, look at somebody who's like 30 compared to the grandmother who's like, what? She's like in her
90.
80s, 90,
90s, actually.
you know.
He was the cool uncle, the one that was almost like a brother or a cousin to you.
Yeah. To be fair, her other uncles didn't seem quite as fun to be around, or at least not in that kind of way.
Yeah.
No. And I
I,
mean, look at it this way. Yeah, like the pretend boyfriend that she created via Kenji had a lot of things on his fake resume that reflected the uncle, but those are probably just qualities in a guy that she probably wanted for herself based on him. Hey, he's cool, and I want the guy that I'm eventually with to be someone like this because he'd be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can totally see that now. But see, other aspects of her, well, like we mentioned, she gets the Kenji into being her fake boyfriend, and I suppose eventually that turns into a real boyfriend at the end. But that's after all the crazy shit that happens during the story. But
Yep.
let's see. What other aspects about her that were interesting?
Well, I think just from like a character design standpoint, I like all the character designs in this movie a lot actually, but like she's very cute,
Hmm.
and in a
Yeah,
and in a realistic way, or at least as far as you can get with anime, you know.
The wholesome girl next door type of vibe.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
anything
know,
else?
I mean, I don't really remember that much about
Yeah,
her.
I feel like she didn't quite get much attention in the movie. I mean,
She
except for
was she was
ex
swallowed up by a lot of everything else.
yeah, I mean, except for that one, except for the shogi part at, or not shogi, the koi koi or whatever it was called.
Yeah, koi koi.
Yeah, the koi koi at the end, the whole scene with that, she was pretty heavily influenced in that one, or heavy influencer in that one, anyways.
She was
But
the
outside of
star.
that,
Hmm.
yeah, but a lot of the movie she was just kind of in the background. She didn't really have much presence.
I mean, yeah, she's very much. Hmm. It almost brings into debate whether she's like really a main character or not, because I mean, just purely based on screen time she is, as in like how much time you spend being able to look at her when watching the movie, but she doesn't really do a whole lot other than, I mean, she almost feels like more of a plot device.
Yes.
Yeah,
She's there to move the story forward, and that's not bad at all. There's a lot of characters like that that are just fine, but she's sort of more there as a device, a narrative device than a character.
yeah, she like as far as screen time, well, not as far as relevance is concerned, even Kazuma kind of had more relevance than she did. And a couple of the other family member characters whose names I've already forgotten kind of also did as well. Like the one uncle for Kazuma who's taught him
How to
karate.
fight? Yeah.
Yeah, he had. I felt like even he had some more relevance than she did in a lot of these for a lot of the story.
Can we talk about Kazuma a little bit, because he didn't leave a very big impression on me.
He's basically the character who's really good at, well, he's basically the really powerful side character that you don't really expect.
His
But
He-
alter ego played more of a role King Kazuma did than he did.
yeah, like him himself, not really stand out much. He didn't really stand out much, but the King Kazuma in the virtual reality, he was basically that was basically most of the fight scenes in the series was just watching King Kazuma fight either other avatars or Love Machine himself or itself at least. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because I was thinking that like, yeah, like I remember who he is and I remember seeing him, but in the non-virtual reality world, like he didn't really leave he wasn't really a particularly memorable
Well,
character,
he
I don't
didn't
think.
really move much of anything else, or he didn't really move anything because
He didn't
everything.
really move.
No, he actually didn't. He sat down like in three different spots at least, and maybe five. But even then, you always saw him sitting down or occasionally standing up, but never really walking around.
Yeah, and he was sort of I feel like he didn't really interact with too many people other than Kenji.
Yeah,
His
and
personality
there,
lent to that
yeah,
too. He was kind of cantankerous.
I don't know what that word
yeah.
means.
He just
Look it up in a thesaurus, Adam.
No, I'm
Hold
gonna use
on, I'll go
Google.
he
get you one.
wasn't the world's friendliest person. He was kind
Okay,
of
Well,
okay.
grumpy and standoffish.
I Googled it and I understand.
learn the lingo, Adam.
I mean, like,
I
one
will one
reason
day.
he stood out to me, like, one reason, this is gonna sound really bad and I apologize, he falls under the ambiguously brown trope, and me being brown, I'm like, oh look, somebody else that's brown. Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I guess, but didn't the uncle sort of have dark skin too?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
they were tanned.
they
I'm
were
guessing,
tan.
Yeah.
which is weird because don't I don't think he goes out that much. He doesn't look like he would go out that much, but
No.
No, no, he doesn't. I mean, he spends like at least 90% of his screen time in front of a laptop or a Nintendo DS type thing.
weird, weirdly done on some of the character designs. Like the one uncle with his yellow hair, he looks very strange.
Hmm.
Well,
I
you
mean, does
could
he dye it
well
or
that's the
hair
natural
color?
assumption, I think, just considering how down to earth the rest of the character designs are. I mean, everybody's supposed to be Japanese as far as I know. So the only way most Japanese people get blonde hair is to either dye it or have a parent that's not Japanese,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
A
And
lot of them, if they have blonde hair, they're halves.
but I didn't really just because I feel like we would have seen more people like that in the family if that was the case with this guy.
Right.
Yeah, Kazuma didn't actually have much screen time himself, though his avatar did, but
Yeah.
the actual fight scenes with his avatar in Love Machine were really well done, just visually.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I don't want to. Everything was very colorful,
Yeah,
very
well,
vibrant, and I thought that that was cool.
besides the special animations Hosoda movies tend to have, where it's very unique looking, you wouldn't really see many other movies that look quite like this as far as just the animation style, but just the fight scenes in Oz itself look really pleasant to look at and very colorful, and they were and just the character designs themselves are all over the place. Though we'll look more into that when we get to animation.
Yeah.
But I suppose moving on from Kazuma, we can get into the grandmother, who is basically the
Yes.
matriarch of the family, Sake Jinochi.
Yeah.
So
I must
she's
say,
a
I like
badass
grandma.
grandma.
Hmm.
Okay, go ahead, Sadi. Or Sadi.
Grandma.
You can
Child.
hit me now. You
I
can hit me
plan on
now.
it. I really did love Grandma. She was awesome. I mean, I pretty much think that she knew exactly what was up the minute her granddaughter brought, oh God, I forgot his name already. Ah,
Kenji.
Kenji
Kenji.
home. I mean, she
Well,
made him,
I mean, Kenji. She basically gave Kenji or the same backstory as what Wabisuke,
Yeah,
Wabis,
Wabisuke.
I just
Wabisuke.
call him Wabi for
So,
short.
okay, Wabi. But she basically gave him the same backstory as what Wabi has, and Wabi is basically her adopted son. So, wouldn't be surprised if she already knew what's up by then.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like Kenji really fit that backstory at all.
Oh no, he didn't.
No.
Like I think anybody who knew the backstory would just be like, "Oh, okay,
I
all
mean, the aunts
right."
did figure it out at one point. Like, they gave her crap
Yeah,
for it.
Yeah.
yeah, which I mean, as big as that family is, somebody who's smart enough would probably have looked it up at least.
Hmm. But
Though
yeah, back to
that
Grandma.
was like
Yeah.
back to grandma. So grandma is the best. She she's she's basically the matriarch of the family. Like everyone looks up to her. Everyone basically looks for her approval, and she's extremely well connected with a lot of people, like a lot of politicians and CEOs and other major people.
I
To
mean,
the
the
point
fact
where,
that
yeah,
she's that well connected and respected goes to show how formidable of a woman she is. I mean, it's hard enough for any female to do that well, but the
yeah,
fact that she does it and maintains that level of prestige for like years after her
in her
husband's
90s.
gone and she's retired, and people still, respond to her name and to her calls. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love that one scene where she's like, "Oh, it's been 60 years. You can just forget about the time I punched you in the face."
there's You mentioned the word matriarch a couple of times, and I wanted to note that because there's sort of an archetype for that, and I feel like when you think of like the really powerful anime grandma, you think more of somebody like the grandmother in Hanasaku Iroha, whereas Sakae is sort of the opposite. Like she's very warm, I felt,
Hmm.
and like
Yeah.
and loving as opposed to like you she's sort of like reminds me of my own grandmother,
Yeah.
that type.
Yeah, in some ways, same.
Where
I
where
mean,
or at least like she's the type of grandmother that you want to have.
you might want to consider the fact that because she's so old and she has been out of whatever political game she used to be, and she can't afford to be that warm and charming and be a grandmother instead of a businesswoman anymore.
That's
Like,
true.
I don't think I would have wanted to meet her like in her prime. I think she would have scared me.
I mean, she does sound scary just from some of the interactions she has, and just when she's going ballistic at Wabi with the whole
Yeah,
polearm,
once she
base.
pulls the weapon at him. Yeah.
Yeah, she's kind
But
of. I mean, she's
yeah,
badass.
yeah, badass grandma. She
That's
just
really.
needs a sniper rifle now. An Overwatch character.
Oh, did anybody else ugly cry when she died?
Yeah,
I
that was.
managed to
I
hold
was
myself
pretty
together,
close
but
to
that's because I
tears
have no
when I
heart.
was. I was actually that once I got to that point, I was really sad at it. Like I was watching it like right before I recorded this. I mean, I didn't think it was after story levels where I was blatantly crying, but it was definitely extremely
Okay.
sad.
I don't think anything has reached after story levels for me. Like I cry hearing the soundtrack of After Story.
It's
Like
just I'm a crier. Everything makes me cry. Like when I do movies and anime, like just waterworks everywhere. I can't do it. Like real life, I'll be fine. Let me get attached to fictional characters like
you're
Grandma
so
here,
weird.
and I just lose it.
Uh, yeah, the entire interactions with the family is definitely focused at her. Like the interactions with the other characters are very minor, but everyone basically has in some way connection to Sake. Sake?
Sakae,
Sakare? Something like
Sakae.
Oh my god.
Sake. Plain filler, where we try our hardest to pronounce things and fail miserably. Uh,
Da-da-da-da. New tagline.
but anything else about her? Like, I mean, oh well, I suppose there is the whole interaction with her and Wabisuke. Like, Wabisuke was basically the grandfather's illegitimate son that she basically adopted as her own son and took care of.
I
But
do not know many women that would do that. Like, no
no.
lie. She has a strong mind, a strong will, and a strong heart. Because if it were me, that kid would grow up in the gutter. No lie.
I mean, just adding on to like the badass grandma thing, this thing happened and she was like, okay, I'm going to take full control now.
Not only this, but consider this. It's a rural community. Everybody probably knew that that wasn't her kid. And she gave zero fucks.
I mean, you could kind of tell by looking at him.
No, I mean like have you ever grown up in a small town where everybody knows everything about you ever?
No, I grew up in a very big town.
Okay. I grew up in a small town. Small town politics, like literally rumors have killed people. You get that depressed and that suicidal. Imagine her raising this kid, walking around with this kid and everybody knowing that's not hers. It was
Yeah.
probably tough and she didn't care.
Well, I mean, she's like we've said before, she's really powerful as well. Even in her prime, she would be extremely powerful. So I don't think anyone could really say that many bad things about her, or if they could, she has such a hard skin that it's not like
It
anything
didn't
would
bother
pierce her.
her. It's just
Yeah,
like being that powerful mean you were that much more in the public eye. I mean, her husband made a fool of her and she just did not care, and I think that is something significant. Like it speaks to her character.
Yeah,
yeah, and
it's very like you gotta respect that. I mean,
Right?
yeah,
she really was in control of her own life.
honestly, I felt like she was the most powerful character in the movie itself.
I mean, she
Just,
totally was.
I mean, just the way she's designed and how everyone interacts with her, she's the most interesting character to see in action, especially when she's getting people motivated and just everything about her, pretty much.
You know what? Team Grandma for life.
Team Grandma, Grandma's best.
Yep.
But and now for the last character, we'll be covering Wabisuke, who is the illegitimate son we were talking about before,
Cool
and
uncle.
cool uncle who took some money from grandma, ran off to America, and ended up creating a basically just absolutely destructive AI that destroys a lot of aspects, that tries to destroy a lot of aspects of society.
Pretty much Japanese GLaDOS.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I mean, just right off the bat, just from that, you know he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I the only person that didn't like him?
Um,
I mean, he wasn't.
I I'm not sure I really felt one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of indifferent to him. He seemed like the basically usual snotty brat kind of character, even though he's like 30. But like he didn't seem that noteworthy one way or the other, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's like my favorite character, far from it. But I didn't particularly dislike him either. He's just
I
sort of
mean,
there for me.
for me, like getting attached to fictional characters and shit, I'm Team Grandma. I love Grandma. She's awesome.
Of
And
course.
I mean, we're
Wabi
all
pretty
team
much just
grandma at
takes
this point.
all her love and all her generosity and just kind of sort of like pees all over it.
And then and then grandma kind of loses her shit, but then basically
Still
goes back,
forgives him. Still loves
still
him.
forget.
He doesn't deserve it. And I guess I just did not like him because of that. Still salty. Team Grandma.
Why do you think Natsuki looked up to him so much?
Aside from, the child crush thing, he's the type of person that did go out and do what he wanted to do despite it taking him so far away from his family. I mean, that kind of drive is something you should look up to.
Okay.
At the
Okay.
same time, I don't know.
At the same time, don't be a jerk.
Right?
Don't start creating AIs that will destroy all infrastructure as we know it.
I mean, and he kind of sort of did it for money too. Just because. Let's see if I can do this, and people will pay me a lot of money. Screw the rest of the world, as long as I'm rich. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, anything else to say about any of the characters?
It's inadvertently his fault that Grandma died. Screw Wabi.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think they ever really noted that for him. I mean, yeah, the whole letter with forgive him, but he kind of did cause her to die. But anyways, moving on, let's talk about the animation. So the animation is really, really good in this movie. Like,
Hosoda.
Hosoda, Hosoda movies have just this. I'm not sure how to describe it, but the art style always looks very different from other anime shows and movies. It's just got its own style to it, I feel.
Personally, for me, what sticks out is that he doesn't really shade his characters.
Hmm. I never really noticed that, but yeah, you're right.
And I it gives it a very unique look, and I like it a lot because I suck at shading, so I don't really shade my characters when I don't need to either when I'm drawing. So what he does is he sort of puts a lot of emphasis on the outlines and making the characters really pop from the backgrounds.
Yeah, the the characters always feel like they're sort of popped right from the background. The backgrounds look really nice, but characters always stand out from them, it seems.
And he uses depth of field quite a bit, where I'm not sure if I can recall that much other anime doing that. Where like what's in the foreground and the background might be blurry, like he uses like camera focus in a very cinematic way that you don't usually find in anime that I can
No.
think of, at least not in a way that it sticks
Yeah.
out to me.
Oh yeah, not in a way that sticks out. I'm sure there are several movies or anime series that do it.
I mean, I know Fate Stay Night, the UFO table one, did it, and that was really cool.
But let's see. There's another thing I really like about the animation is definitely how they do the character facial expressions, like when you see Kinji, or when you first see Kinji, and when he meets what's her face, Natsuki.
Yes.
Basically when basically when he meets her, he's basically looking all over the place, not ever actually making eye contact with her. Just extra features like that really make his character stand out as, hey, this guy is really awkward. And when he does the same when he meets like the other characters. Just little facial animations like that are really well done.
As far as character design goes, something that is very notable about Hosoda to me is that he doesn't really have same face syndrome that you
Hmm.
see in
No,
a lot of
no,
other
yeah, you're
anime.
right.
Every character has a unique face, even across his multiple different movies. And even in this one, he has an excuse to make everybody look the same. They're all related, but he still does. He
Yeah,
still makes every character unique enough that
and there, yeah,
even the
and there's a
non-memorable
whole lot of
characters,
And
you know,
the characters that are, up there in age actually look like they're up there in age. It's not this thing where, like, if you remove the face, it's still like some banging young person. It's like
yeah, or
they're
it's not like
well, there,
a
yeah,
50-year-old anime mom looks 22,
right.
you
or
know.
also known as JoJo. But yeah, and just as far as the character designs are concerned, they have a lot of different body types with regard to their characters. Just a lot of representation of different character in the character designs, a lot of different body types and just
It
builds and stuff like that.
Yeah, it feels and looks like a real family.
No one's, like the 20-year-old body on the 50-year-old person, and they're just buff as fuck or
I
slender
mean,
as
look at
hell.
Uncle. He has like a beer gut.
Yeah. Or the one lady who's always screaming at the TV for the baseball player. She's
Hmm.
much more rounder and much more. She isn't very thin, but then you have a couple of other characters who are more thin, but sort of look like they're the type who
Yeah,
are,
I mean,
yeah,
they're
just fit
plump.
them.
You can tell that some of them have had kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually wanted to I know we sort of finished up talking about characters, but I sort of forgot about him until just now. It was like the baseball cousin.
The one who, oh yeah, that entire scene, just, yeah, we can go back to that, but just how they play that out as far as in the story where all this stuff is going on and then it cuts to the baseball and it sort of matches what's going on. Like if the baseball player is having I believe I forgot her name, the one more plump woman I was talking about before. I believe he's her son. Is that why she's cheering him on?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
her kid.
yeah.
Yeah. So you always have that dynamic going on in the background, and it's always interesting to see how it lines up with everything. Like how the
I
baseball
thought that
player
that
is occasionally.
scene was really well done.
Well, that scene was played out throughout the entire
Well,
movie, basically.
that's true. I'm thinking of one moment towards the end.
With
Um,
or is it the one where they're fighting the love machine near the end, or
yes,
in? Yeah.
when they like bust out like all the big servers and fans and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That entire scene felt really well done, just how it fit in with everything else. But Does feel kind of weird happening alongside it as well, though.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's the type of coincidence that would never really happen.
Yeah,
But
it's that absurd movie thing.
It's just
Sadi
another
says.
like on the nose type of parallel.
yeah, but it's
Yeah,
fun. It's cool. It didn't bother me when I was watching.
Oh no, I did like it,
I liked it.
especially, when everything's over, he wins the game and everybody's cheering and happy.
and then and then how it they basically when he comes back, when you actually start seeing him in person because you always saw him on TV, he finds out his grandma died and he's just completely in tears with the winning flag basically.
I mean,
But
every battle has its losses.
yeah, which they really play out the whole aspects with the family's lineage being ancestors that can't quite remember how it was, but they basically fought during in 16, the 1600s or so, and they always bring up battles alongside their ancestors
Mm.
into the more modern setting. So it's always interesting to see what parallels they use for that as well. I mean, the entire movie is called Summer Wars,
I
so
do
it's
think
also
it
interesting.
was quite interesting that the women in the anime, all of them were kind of sort of in charge, and the men were the ones taking the back seat for a majority of the movie.
Yeah,
Well,
Like,
there
that
were
that
different
was
directions there and here.
that I think that is somewhat of a Japanese thing, more so than in the West, where like mothers and grandmothers are very, very respected, whereas, here you're more likely to have the grandfather who fought in the war, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
But it was always interesting to see those parallels here and there, just the interesting correlations that the movie uses. But back to animation, because we kind of got off topic.
Yeah, it happens all the
blatant
time.
filler.
Blatant filler. We get off topic. Okay, so we did mention the character designs, how interesting they are in Oz and in real life, or the real life setting. Anything else to mention about the animation?
Well,
Aside from it being gorgeous,
Well, yeah,
the
it's a gorgeously animated film, but then again, Madhouse.
yeah,
fair.
Oz used a lot of 3D CG, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
That
but
it
yeah,
looked not crappy, and that's
Oh
uh,
notable
yeah,
because it almost always looks crappy, and it didn't look like garbage this time.
it
yeah,
blended.
it didn't look like Berserk 2016. Cough. Uh,
I tried watching that. Goodness.
Yeah, there's really no
yeah.
excuse for that, especially I don't know.
We're getting off topic
Yeah,
again.
we'll do a Berserk podcast later on.
You started this, JJ. You started this.
Yeah, I did. I knew immediately after I said that I did wrong.
Blatant filler.
Uh, Plain filler. But we were mentioning the CGI.
Yeah, because it looks not bad.
It doesn't look like it's out of place or clunky. I have no idea how they did it, but
I
it did
think
it well.
maybe it's because it's a virtual world, so you sort of expect it to look like that. They might have taken advantage of that, just like psychologically in the back of our minds, expecting a virtual world to look sort of 3D CG.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
but
Yeah.
it looked good. It wasn't off-putting. I didn't even it didn't stick out, and that's when it's good. You don't want it to stick out. Like if bad CGI is CGI that you notice.
So
Yeah, I definitely
90% of
agree with you.
CGI.
Yeah, or I guess I should say like good CGI is the CGI that you don't notice until you look for it. Which
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
basically what this was. Like I didn't even really remember that it was even CG until it just popped into my head like, "Oh yeah, that was CG. I should mention that."
But anything else to say about the animation or any other aspects of the animation?
I mean, I can't draw any parallels for myself because the best thing I can do is like stickmen. Really shitty stickmen.
Really shitty stickman. Yeah.
I can't draw. I can't.
I can't either, so. But
This
anyways,
is yeah. This is why I word.
moving on to the sound design. So, am I the only one who's watched the dub?
Probably.
I watched part of it, but that was like months ago.
Hmm. Well, overall, the dub felt solid enough. I mean, it doesn't. I haven't actually listened to this Japanese dub, but nothing about the English dub really stood out as a hey, you have to listen to this over the Japanese dub. But at the same time, it didn't sound bad at all. Like it sounded, it's if you don't want to watch the subtitle version, then it's an okay dub. There's nothing really bad about it, and a lot of the voice actors in it are heavily or are major voice actors in the Funimation sort of air, basically zone. So like a lot of major voice actors like J. Michael Tatum, Brina Palencia, a bunch of others, which there are too many to list off because there are so many characters in this movie. Eh,
Yeah,
But
I never watched dubs.
I
but
usually
yeah,
go with dubs on my rewatches of things.
hmm, yeah.
I like to watch it in Japanese first. The only exception to that, I think, was Bakano.
Well, I mean, back now you have to watch it dubbed.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only way to watch it.
Oh, sad face.
But otherwise, like, there isn't really too much anything notable about the dub. As sound design, the music, the music never really stood out to me one way or the other.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really remember much of the soundtrack. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched the movie, so I don't know how much that says about the soundtrack or how much it says about my memory. But
How long
um,
ago did you watch it?
well, it's got to have been like 3 or 4 months.
That's not long.
Yeah.
The last time I watched this was a year ago.
And do you remember any tracks in particular?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so maybe it's not me.
I mean, it's not like Paprika
No,
or
it was
Redline where there are tracks that you absolutely always remember,
yeah.
like the parade track from Paprika or
Mm.
Yellow Line from Redline.
I actually I remember most of the tracks from Paprika, and I think it's been longer since I watched that movie. That um,
But I mean, it was all right
I mean,
when it was needed to be, when it needed to be, but it never stood out.
it fit and that was it. There was nothing spectacular or outstanding.
Yeah,
like it's
basically.
not basically the way that I uh, think about how important a soundtrack to me is have I listened to any tracks from it on their own? Like multiple times. Like, do I keep coming back? Like, my favorite anime soundtrack is Angel Beats because, like, I basically listen to a song from that show every single day. I don't know if I've ever gone back and listened to anything from Summer Wars that I heard and was like, I just need to find this song. You
No.
know?
Like,
Yeah.
I normally judge it by like my Disney scale. Has it had a song stuck in my head? Yes or no? If it's a no, then no. It wasn't any like for me to consider it amazing, I need to be able to remember at least one thing and have it stuck in my head for a solid amount of time.
Yeah, that's my thing is I need to have like at least one track that I keep on going back to, and this didn't have that, but it also wasn't like a bad soundtrack either.
Yeah.
Where
Like
you
like
remember something because it was absolutely awful.
yeah, you either remember something because it's good or bad, and like it's not like there was a song that stuck out to me as like really annoying, like oh, why is this playing right now? You know, like it fit with the scene nicely, but it wasn't super special.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It did what its job, but nothing else, pretty much. Uh, so then now let's move on to Impact, which Summer Wars definitely had an impact on Mamoru Hosoda. Specifically, it really made people think of his movies in much higher light. Like before that, he had The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which was definitely a well-received movie, but not heavily so. Like it didn't have as much scale as his current movies do. Like Wolf Children is a huge movie right now, and Summer Wars is also pretty substantial. But it didn't quite start out that way with The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. It definitely didn't
Um,
happen until Summer Wars
would
was
you
released.
consider like The Girl Who Leapt Through Time being more of a niche type movie?
I
In some
would.
ways, yeah, I'd agree. Yeah,
I think it sort
because
of
some,
has like a little bit of a cult following.
Because like Summer Wars and some of his other stuff, they're more like they have a genre that's more popular and more consumer friendly.
yeah, I definitely agree. Summer Wars definitely feels like it would hit more with a larger audience than The Girl Who Leapt Through Time would, though. I know largely that Wolf Children is definitely considered one of the more major movies from him, though I'm not sure how well received it is compared to Summer Wars as far as just popularity.
Um, I don't know about like how critics view it, but I think Wolf Children is probably more popular than Summer Wars. Just as far as like I feel like I hear people talking about that movie more than any of the other Hosoda films.
I have no idea how well The Boy and the Beast has done so far, though I still need to watch it myself.
A lot of people liked it, as far as I know. At least everybody that I know who's seen it has like thought it was amazing. So I really got to get on that. So do you.
Yeah, but I'd say that's the major impact of it. It definitely put Mamoru Hosoda on basically on the map of movie directors we should keep an eye on. Which, considering Satoshi Kon basically died a few years ago, that a new major anime director who isn't from Studio Ghibli is definitely good to have.
Yeah, and I just sort of realized I don't, at least within like my social circle of people I know who watch anime, I haven't heard anybody say that Summer Wars is their favorite Hosoda film. It's always either The Girl Who Leapt Through Time or more often Wolf Children. Almost everybody says Wolf Children, and I feel like, I mean, Sadie probably feels a little bit this way too about like, well, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time was it was so good.
Exactly. Don't let me start.
So how would we compare it into to other both movies and series in its particular genres?
I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it's sort of like for me, like a second place movie a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Where in its like when it comes to action, comedy, drama, sci-fi, all these things that it has, it's always more of like a well, if you've already seen blah, then you should watch Summer Wars because you'll like that too. Whereas like it's
yeah,
not so much like, oh, you're looking for a good comedy movie, like watch Summer Wars, you know.
I mean,
yeah. I definitely agree.
I used it kind of sort of as an intro to anime because it's so palatable. Like, not because it's absolutely amazing, but because it's an easy watch. Like, I'd make some of my friends watch it.
Yeah, it's the type of thing that you can like sit down and watch with your family that doesn't care for anime.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're the only one
Yeah,
who watches anime in your family, but you want to watch a movie with your family and you want to watch anime, Summer Wars is a good shot. You know, I bet people will like it, you know.
Yeah. That's exactly what I use it for.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's true. It is a really good introductory film, just because
yeah,
So
it's
there you
I can
so
go.
definitely see that.
it's very easy to digest.
Yeah, yeah. But see, so then, what are some series you would recommend to people alongside of it? I can start us off by giving you some easy ones. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Wolf Children, and I assume The Boy and the Beast. Though I can't actually recommend it since I haven't watched it yet.
Neither have
But
I.
yeah,
Slacking.
which means we
Okay.
all have to watch it after this.
We're all slacking.
But another one, we're all slacking. Blatant filler, we're all slacking here. But another one I actually want to recommend is actually a series called Gatchaman Crowds, because in some ways the actual in Gatchaman crowds, they have this sort of social medias that acts fairly similar to Oz in how there's a lot of connectivity in it, but there's a lot more social connectivity in it. Like, say, if somebody's injured or something like that, a message will go out to somebody nearby with a, say, like, with a nurse or a doctor or something like that, and they can respond to help out the person in need. Just little aspects like that are integrated heavily into the system that is depicted in the show, and the show uses that for a lot of social commentary and other aspects that are very interesting. Minus the fact that it's attached to Gatchaman and there's a lot of Sentai weirdo stuff that doesn't really work well with that interesting concept. Uh, but what else? How about you, Adam?
I think I would recommend, as far as another movie goes, I would actually recommend Paprika, just because
Okay.
it's
Well, yeah, I'd also recommend Paprika. I second that
it's got
recommendation.
it's one of those my words stopped working. It's got that sort
Work
of it's
words,
similar
work
to
words.
it's got a similar to the virtual reality alternate universe vibe, except instead of being an actual virtual reality, it's a dream world. So I would also recommend a TV show called Hanasaku Iroha for the sort of character interactions. It's about a girl who goes to live with her grandmother at her grandmother's inn. This grandmother is way scarier and way less cool, but she's still a really interesting character. And that show is also sort of focused on the character relationships in a similar way to the quote real life unquote scenes in Summer Wars are, where it's got a really diverse cast of characters personality wise and shows how they interact with each other. This one is a little bit of a stretch, but the reason it relates is because of characters. It's called Time of Eve, or Eve no Jikan in Japanese, and it is actually about interactions between humans and robots. So it sort of has that artificial intelligence side to it, except it's not an artificial intelligence that's trying to destroy all of humans' infrastructure. But that's very much about character interaction. There's an ONA and also a movie. They're basically the same thing. You could watch either one. Uh, they're both like roughly 2 hours.
Wait, I think I have
Well,
one. Again, it's a stretch, but if you like the whole interpersonal relationship thing and, character growth and all that good jazz, slice of life also slightly impractical, I'd say watch Kimi no Todoke. I mean, yeah, it's a cute, fluffy shoujo anime about a romance, but it develops at a pace that's actually kind of organic, and you might like that. So, watch that.
I actually have two more recommendations. One, both of them actually very family centric. One, The Eccentric Family, which is basically a show about tanukis who can turn into people, basically mourning the loss of their basically father figure after he got eaten by a person, and
What?
just
Oh
the
wait, I've seen
interactions.
this.
It's a yeah, that one, and then Kyosoi Giga, which is basically kind of like Alice in Wonderland, but a bunch of weirdos and just really weird art style, and basically them trying to get, trying to have their mother and father return back, and then later on other stuff regarding that as well. But it's a really fun to look at series and really well made, and that's pretty much all I have on recommendations. And so, well, thank you for listening to this episode of Blatant Filler. If you would like to get in contact with any of us, our Twitter handles will be in the description below. If you're watching this one on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel and give us a like if you enjoyed the video. If you're listening to this via iTunes, then be sure to give us a review as it helps us out, whether it's good or bad. Be sure to leave a comment on anywhere if you either agree or disagree with anything we said, want to add anything we missed, or anything regarding the show itself you want to talk about, or if you just want to leave a smiley face, we enjoy that too. So my name is JJ. You can find me as the Journeyman66 on Twitter, and Adam over here, he can tell you where you can find him.
I'm on Twitter as AdamK678.
Sadie, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter if you guys are into that. That is Lady the Sadie. Think, the sadist in which, the word came from. That's me. Hit me up or not, or I'll hit you.
But until next time, later. Dog barking?
No, me whistling.
Oh, well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, basically. Enjoy.
Hello! Oh, damn it, Adam. You screwed me up.
Always.
I hope you never get any good Pokemon anymore.
I don't have any good ones anyway.
Well, that's good. You don't deserve them. Words.
None of us are talking properly. And Seth. She's gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Die.
Damn it. Damn. No 360 no scope Reaper player. Or also known as Grandpa.
Oh, you're like die. Now I'm thinking Bill, because I just saw that stupid movie, The Conjuring 2. Either way you say it, I'm getting you hit, so.